Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SPL. Today is going to be the first day that we get to see Europe in week number 3, and a slew of exciting games coming at you right now. But first, why don't we talk about what this is all coming down to? Of course, players competing in the regular season, then eventually finding themselves at LAN, and then hopefully a few select people will find themselves at the Smite World Championship, but you can do that yourself. Just go to hi-rez.expo.com.
I made the decision, Tom. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm finally going. I've convinced Adonis too, so both of us are going.
Glad to hear, buddy. I think I'm going to be in tow as well. As always, all the hi-rez crew going to be there, a bunch of teams. And here's a sneak peek at who you might see. The teams up top might be able to make it there, but just to reiterate something, well, not reiterate, we're bringing it to you now for the first time. Paradigm and Fantastic will be rescheduled. The team Paradigm has gone through some changes, and the league is aware of that, so we're giving the team a little bit more time to get their feet out from underneath them and hit the ground running. With that said, we'll move on to Sanguine and CycloneGG to start the day off. If you do want more information, make sure to go to esports.smitegame.com and take a look at the competitive ruling.
And for the second game that we're going to see, rather, first game, Cyclone versus Sanguine. Both of these teams still at the bottom of the crop. They've lost to a lot of higher tier teams at the moment. And this match going in for both of them, I would see is a kind of a test for both of them to see where they truly stand.
Yeah, I think this is really a big moment for each team to really find their identity. CycloneGG, they're a team rife with rookies, 5 players, Kalas. I don't know if you want to count
Experienced
him.
rookie.
He did play at DreamHack, but still fresh to the SPL. And you take a look at Sanguine, formerly Leftovers. These guys have already played a split, but still struggling to find their spot in the league and figure out where they belong.
Yeah, and with players like Arkkyl going against NBK, we've known them to play a lot of on-hers in the duo lane specifically, so that could be a highly contested pick and ban. And also yesterday in North America, a lot of Terra. I think it had 100% pick and ban.
Yeah, Terra, the new god. This is the first week that Terra will be available. The Guardian of choice for a lot of North American squads might be on the table today as we take a look at Europe. Picks and bans, though. CycloneGG, Sanguine. Cyclone has the first pick and the first ban, and we'll see where they elect to go. They're going to ban out Naja first and foremost.
Target ban against Cherryo. He's known to play a lot of Naja in the jungle, setting up his mid laner Dodo this time around. It's not an uncommon thing to see these target bans. We saw it a lot as well in North America in the last couple sets.
Arlong Shen and Ao Kwang, on the other hand, just pretty standard bans, 2 very strong characters that players don't really feel like they want to go up against. And Sanguine have a second ban, and it will be the Terra. So Sanguine a little bit afraid of the newness coming out of the Smite. So CycloneGG, they have first pick. And they'll go with the Nemesis, the tried and true jungle composition to allow burst damage to really come down hard.
With such a short cooldown on her ultimate and being paired up with Susano sometimes, that could be the option for Cyclone, whether or not they wanted to go for the Nemesis or the Susano. They wanted to go for this kind of all-in style, so I expect them to pick up maybe a Bacchus to couple the Nemesis.
That's usually what goes hand in hand with the Nemesis, but for Sanguine, we'll see the Neith and the Freya. With both of these characters selected, you are already well aware where everybody's going to go. Neith will be in the mid lane, and Freya will be in the dual lane.
And Fafnir's still available, so Cyclone has to be careful about Sanguine picking this up. Going into Dragon form, getting that Coerce. Yeah. Late game, Neith and Freya with Dragon form Coerce. That's going to be really scary for Cyclone to deal with.
Exactly, so got to keep an eye on where Cyclone are going to go. Maybe Cyclone even pick up the Fafnir themselves. Instead, going to go the Bacchus that we originally postulated because of the Nemesis. Bacchus, Nemesis, Raijin, such a powerful, potent combo.
And realizing the Sanguine, they're going to take the Susano, so they're prioritizing picking up their jungler before the third ban. More than likely, Cyclone should ban Fafnir, trying to shut down the late game prowess of the Freya and the Neith, but has to really worry about this global, not global pressure, but just the mobility that Susano can really provide.
What do you think about that Kepri ban coming out from CycloneGG there?
It means that they're really worried about Susano going all into the backline, and if they're going to try to focus the Freya, more importantly in these team fights, they want to be able to confirm the kill. It's hard enough to kill her enough when she goes into the skies, but not banning out the Fafnir.
No Fafnir ban at all. I expect and implore Sanguine to pick it up here right now. I mean, it'd be an excellent selection, although with that in mind, they don't have to pick it here. They could even pick it later because Cyclone already have the Bacchus, but instead, it'll be the Athena, a more setup-oriented god, rather than a character like Fafnir to just augment what Freya and Neith are going to do. It'll instead set up what they intend to do.
And that's a good idea to have these kinds of gods on Sanguine to force out the purification. Susano can jet stream in, find the pull. Athena can dash taunt. Freya can find the whoop. So already those 3 gods from Sanguine are going to force a lot of purifications.
Jing, the hunter of choice for CycloneGG, and they'll pair that up with the Bacchus, and Bellona will be the final selection coming out from the rookies. That will likely be the solo lane of choice. Sanguine, on the other hand, they need to select a solo lane, and it will be the tier into the Bellona.
I like the Bellona pick because we haven't seen it mostly in Season 3, or at least in this split specifically. And with the addition of more of these magical hunters, because there's no golden bow on the physical hunters, that means her Scourge is that much more powerful. The disarm is going to be very key to shutting down this Freya in teamfights.
Oh yeah, Donis and I were talking about Bellona's prowess against Freya specifically, and she's only a hunter, right? Her pulse irradiate is up for 6 seconds at a time. If you're able to hit the Scourge at the right point in time, Freya could just be a non-factor.
Already we see a little bit of a grouping up from CycloneGG. Looks like they want to be positioned to find some wards aggressively on the solo lane jungle from Sanguine. They're more worried about the invade potential than anything else.
Yeah, just looking to play it safe here. Because Cyclone, I would say.
If Sanguine grouped up as 5, one Athena taunt into the Neith route, that could really spell trouble, especially with a tier fearless combination follow-up. You don't really want to be leveling up the dash as Nemesis to get away from that.
And we've seen a couple of very early game First Bloods so far this season already, even before minions spawn. iceice just giving Nika a little bit of a chase.
This is important. This is so important for iceice to delay Nika as long as possible from backing because there's no potions on Nika. On the side of iceice, he still has everything that he really needs to, but he just wants to be back in time for that speed buff.
So by chasing the tier into the around in the jungle, what does that really enable or take away from Nika?
So, like, he had no potions in his inventory. Recognizing this was iceicebabyy, he wanted to make sure to delay the back as long as possible. But at the same time, he was worried about the potential 5-man rotation onto him if he overstayed his welcome.
So just testing the waters, being a little bit aware and hanging out a little bit, but at the same time, being able to make it back right in time to pick up the speed buff. So all normal starts, despite a little bit of exciting aggression, or maybe just calculated aggression? I don't know. Anytime you stare somebody down, I think that's kind of aggressive, but no abilities came out just yet. Everybody just normal starts here.
Nothing too much to worry about. In the mid lane, though, we've seen a lot of hunters trying to take over because of their early aggression. They can basically trade out against these mages, and we see that already. Wlfy at half health.
Lots of damage coming out in the mid lane, and Neith specifically, because she has the built-in sustain with Unravel, able to heal herself up as well as clear the wave very, very well. Even from an early level, Neith specifically makes their way into the mid lane a little bit more frequently than some of the other hunters.
In the dual lane, we see a little bit of a poke onto Arkkyl, trying to group up the wave. A nice job by Callus and VoteNBK, grouping it up with a burp and then grouping it up for the gust.
And just, that's what you expect, teamwork out of these dual lanes these days. It used to be, well, your hunter clears the wave and then your support just kind of sits there. Then we had to sort of share. And so that grouping up by the Bacchus into the VoteNBK gust, certainly very important tactic. Whereas across the way, Sanguine, I mean, Murrdurr, he might dash the wave. Really, this is going to be trouble for the Freya.
Nemesis is going to decide to invade those back lefts because of the fact that they were able to clear out the mid wave largely enough, as well as they were able to put pressure onto the dual lane. Not wanting to commit for the big harpy, but stealing the 2 little ones and safely walking away is very nice and calculating from iceicebabyy.
Just getting every little bit that's on the map available. And iceice has shown us this side of himself already this early in the season. iceice is very aggressive and willing to go into your jungle almost more so than his own.
And that's what you want to do as a jungler whenever you have the advantage. If the enemy's not going to position themselves in mid lane to find the clear on the wave, you can exploit that by just taking those 2 little harpies away. You could hit level 5 before the enemy jungler and then win the little 2v2 fight in the mid harpies.
Well, we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. The Susano right now, tiny bit ahead of the Nemesis on the side of Cyclone. So Cherryo, a little bit more veteran than iceicebabyy. Cherryo has been one of my favorite players to watch recently in the European SPL. Just a lot of dynamic play and a lot of, he's a great setup man while at the same time still being that individual factor.
In the solo lane, we haven't talked about this matchup, Tyr versus Bellona. Pretty standard stuff coming out of both of them, not really wanting to really fight it out. They have pretty good sustain between Tyr power cleave and defensive stance, as well as the Scourge from Bellona, which is not being maxed out against a Tyr, wanting to go for more poke onto the bludgeon.
Yeah, the bludgeon is pretty much the standard way of clear, I think, for most Bellonas, but sometimes, would you change that? Would you go into a Scourge against Tyr?
It depends what I'm really looking to do in the solo lane. If I'm trying to go for more poke and sustain, I'll be maxing out the Scourge, but there's going to be an invade onto the speed buff because Susano backed for Warrior Tabbies, whereas Nemesis doesn't have it. And with this Athena ultimate, they're just going to walk out.
Very clean steal out of Sanguine, and again, like you said, they just noticed that the jungler was absent for too long, and that enables that. Collins feels like he has to make something happen, but just jumps on in. No bite from Sanguine, but Cyclone try to make it happen and try to get back their speed. Doesn't go their way.
Well, they forced an Athena ultimate and Susano if they're feeling confident enough to go for the red buff invade. So losing their speed, gonna steal away the red. CycloneGG, at least they're finding something to answer back, and that's what you have to do.
And the important part coming out, keep an eye on the dual lane specifically. Sanguine weren't there at all, right? Arkkyl on the Freya, not going to make an impact this early on in the game whatsoever. So Cyclone able to go ahead and make that invade onto the red buff.
And with that, they're still going to be able to continue to farm already. Cherryo doing a good job with his mobility on the Warrior type. He's still rotating around, even putting pressure onto Deathwalker, allowing Nika to still clear the way very safely, and now making these rotations. Whenever you have a Tyr that can freely rotate over to mid lane, that's really scary. Even without Blink, the Lawbringer can set up a pretty easy Fearless.
Yeah, I mean, Tyr is a special character in the sense that he doesn't really need the ultimate to really make a huge impact. It's really the Fearless that's going to be his bread and butter. So Nika can rotate pretty much whenever he wants and always be relevant. It doesn't have to line up the ultimate with his rotations.
Unfortunately, Nika not able to find those Fire Giant Elementals. He could have maybe found the Fearless onto Deathwalker just to zone him away from the solo lane wave, maybe deny 1 or 2 melee minions under that tower. But now, hitting both level 8 in the solo lane, still going to be farming in the mid lane. However, there's 3 members grouped up from Sanguine.
Yeah, this is what we expect, the core coming together 5 minutes into the game. So we've got our solo, mid, and jungle together. Excuse me, our support, mid, and jungle together. And that's what you kind of expect, which is why it's so important when we looked at picks and bans for Cyclone to draft the Nemesis, Raijin, Bacchus. These characters are going to be rotating around the map together for the majority of the time. And of course, don't forget, this combination is how you just delete people.
It's all about Murrdurr setting up Neith in the mid lane just like that. Dash taunt into the root. Gonna find up some more follow-up damage, but not wanting to commit. iceicebabyy, though, gonna force out the Typhoon, and Neith tried to get an ulti onto Wlfy, but not enough follow damage.
Yeah, even with all that, even with all the chase, I think Cherryo was thinking about coming back in for the kill onto Wlfy, but iceice then had to use the ultimate. You can see iceice wanted to hold on to it, but had to specifically use it there. Otherwise, Cherryo was just going to go for the gold.
And that play was made to you because the fact that Callus was not in position to counteract the initiation from Murrdurr. Had he been there, that strategy from Sanguine would have easily been disrupted. The burp stun into the belly flop would really prevent Cherryo from finding that tower dive on Wlfy.
And instead, just a single ultimate out of iceice is enough to send Cherryo back into the jungle and looking for something else. Cherryo again on the enemy speed buff. Here he is by himself this time. Nobody really from Cyclone around, and that'll be the second time we see the speed buffs taken away by Sanguine.
It's great communication on the side of Sanguine because he makes the play to invade speed because we see Nika in solo lane. He's like, okay, Deathwalker's pushed under his tower, and then his teammates in middle are like, okay, well, they're all here, so you're free to take the speed. Congratulations.
If everybody's on the map, well, then nobody's in the jungle. Kind of troublesome for Cyclone as they're just slowly losing their buffs. Now, the first time Cyclone were able to respond by invading onto the red buff. This time they think about it, but they get taunted underneath the tower. There's the ultimate for the mid lane, and trouble for Murrdurr, still able to stay alive. Very important play there for Sanguine to keep their support alive. But Cherryo cuts down Callus, and that'll be first blood for Sanguine.
It took a little while for these teams to finally find a blood after all their interactions between each other, but after not having that belly flop available, that was an easy pickoff, just nowhere to go, too much CC.
Yeah, I mean, we saw well, Cyclone tried to initiate on that, and like you said, that's the biggest Achilles heel to Bacchus. Once you initiate, if your initiation doesn't go the way you want it to, all of a sudden, you are just Christmas morning for your opponent, just like a Sobek.
And something I just realized, Wlfy's level 8. If he been level 9 with a second point into his ultimate, that would have been a kill onto Murrdurr. We already look at mid lane for Sanguine. We have level 10 onto Dodo as a result of that early first blood now.
So funny, just the opposite of how Cyclone might have anticipated that first gank to go. And unfortunately for them, now underneath the thumb of Sanguine.
And that's going to allow more aggressive plays from Sanguine, trying to find more of these dash taunts into the roots from Dodo. Their power spike is online now. The Transcendence is finished, almost completed with the stacks. Once the Neith backs for the Warrior Tabby, these roots are going to really start chucking away Wlfy. He cannot stay in these team fights for too long.
And of course the ultimates as well. If Cyclone want to go for a gank, TheDarkDodo can counterattack that with a World Weaver of his own, and then maybe even turn the fight around like we saw Sanguine do in the mid lane themselves.
Wlfy getting poked out, having to back yet again, so gonna have to make sure that this next mid wave gets completely covered. You don't want to fall too far behind to an enemy mid hunter. Already 2 levels behind is Wlfy.
And that's one of the problems. I mean, Susano and Neith are early, they can definitely handle the early game a little bit better than a Raijin Nemesis combination. So because of that pressure that Sanguine has been able to get almost by default, Anatoly, they've really been able to really make this push.
I agree. Definitely the Susano Neith would be better 2v2 than the Nemesis Raijin. The 3v3s is where it really comes down to between these two teams. You add Bacchus to the side of Cyclone and Athena to Sanguine, things becomes even a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's up to Sanguine to make these small little interesting skirmish plays, which they have been doing. The speed buff invade routinely. This time, however, Cyclone tried to get their own speed buff. Sanguine going to try to say something about it.
They forced out the Bellona ultimate. Athena was thinking about using her own. Gonna find the pull onto Deathwalker, poking him out slightly, but in mid lane, Dodo in little trouble with the backflip and Athena ult.
Speed buff again stolen by Sanguine. That's 3 in a row. 3 in a row. Cyclone have not been able to get their speed buff outside of the beginning one. Ice has been slow all day.
And the problem was Cyclone, they found the red buff counter invade the first time around. They didn't really do anything after the second one because of right then and there. They find the taunt
play.
Because the second time they tried to go for red buff, but Athena prevented it because of the taunt route, and this is the same exact thing happening now. And they're going to start the Wlfy, but they don't have a Raph to really confirm this.
Yeah, so Cyclone, they're going to play like they want it, but really, I think they want the fight until you can see Murrdurr chased out thanks to Ice's ultimate. There's Susano's and Kalis in trouble. Kalis is dead. Arkkyl gets the kill for Sanguine.
They're not done yet. They're going to chase down the Neith ultimate onto the Nemesis, but no real follow-up damage. Going to find the reset. Wlfy is going to be a little ambitious to start up because there's still the ultimate from Wlfy. It's just going to chunk the rest of Sanguine.
Even still, Sanguine decided to stick to the objective halfway down already. And if they were going to leash it, I think they'd already have done so. Wlfy goes the way of Sanguine.
It was great zoning by Nika, and is going to find more aggression. Nika not wanting to commit with his own ultimate, just still forcing out the Raijin ult and the free Wlfy, and now Sanguine doing a good job. 2,500 gold in the lead, and they're still going to aggress.
This is greedy, but this is the good kind of greedy. Sanguine knows they have the upper hand in this fight. Down comes Nika and just stomps out iceicebabyy, able to take out the back harpies as well as the red buff camp.
They're starting to strip away every single camp away from Cyclone after this Wlfy, finding the kills on top of this. Now, not only is the gold starting to spike, but the experience is starting to get out of hand.
Yeah, this is, I think it's just experience, Anatoly. Cyclone is a brand new, all-rookie squadron. Sanguine, well, they have 1 split above the opposition, but even 1 split in the SPL just teaches you a whole lot of other tricks, and more importantly, makes you feel a little bit more comfortable around the map.
I think it's the combination of Susano and Cherryo playing Susano that has been so impactful for Sanguine. We saw that the first pick for Cyclone was Nemesis, and Sanguine didn't really care about that because they left Nemesis and Susano open.
Exactly.
And the fact that we saw Cherryo bag for the Warrior Tabby early on to make that speed buff invade play was just so smart, and I feel like that was the initial spark for Sanguine to get this kind of a lead.
It was this spark, and it was planned out from maybe even minute 1. You could see Cherryo on the Susano, very calculated, and him and Dodo really combining very well in the mid lane to really make it happen. Look at the player damage. It's all Susano and Dodo. Tier, yeah, solo lane, but it's all Susano and Dodo.
And it's all about Murrdurr setting up Dodo for those easy-to-land routes. Just so much poke onto Wlfy. He has to back numerous times as a result. Dodo's 2 levels ahead, and the mobility of Cherryo, he's 3 levels ahead.
This time, Cyclone show up in spades to try and defend their speed buff. Now Wlfy on the ultimate, up him himself, and there, the damage not going to be enough. Kalis has to show up and touch down onto Cherryo, so that'll be the first kill going to Cyclone.
You definitely want to have your tanks be the one to dive the backline, and that's exactly what Deathwalker is going to do, forcing out Dodo, but a nice meditation keeping him alive. The Neith ultimate coming out, doesn't have backflip to get away.
Is that Rev? It is. Murrdurr in trouble now. Sanguine's support slowed down. Bludgeon gonna come out, but still not enough to confirm. Deathwalker will turn around and take out Nika, but Frenzy is being used. The level 12 relic of choice for Deathwalker is going to be Frenzy. Very interesting. Break that down for us.
Frenzy definitely helped out with the addition of the ultimate, the Eagle's Rally from Deathwalker. You having so much protection, physical power, you have the attack speed from the Frenzy, and with the power spike of the Witchblade and the Icavile from Deathwalker, this makes it so much easier for him to dive the backline onto Dodo.
And that's what's allowing this tower push to come out, but might have been too soon. Cherryo tosses the Storm and takes out Kalis again. That's the third time that he's died already this game.
So there was 2 issues with that last engagement that went really south really quickly for Sanguine. Was the fact that there was no rotation from Arkkyl, well obviously because he wants to sit and farm as a Freya. He wants to get into that late game form, but on top of that, NBK, he's using his passive global to be looking for that rotation.
Well, Arkyl's going to come out from behind VoteNBK and maybe look for a play, but
he has Fatalis. This is not a bad idea. He also has teammates. Going to force out the ultimate taunt. Unfortunately, could have been held on to. After you dash immediately, it's kind of like that mind game. It's like, okay, I'm going to dash at you.
Right.
You're going to have to respond because more than likely there should be a taunt following up. So you're either going to force the ultimate or the purification.
So you try to force that without even using your tools so that after they land, you can
do it again.
Exactly. Going to be a little bit safe this time around. Sanguine leading the game by a kill and about 2,000 gold as well. So Sanguine with a very small marginal lead.
Still in the lead, but they cannot afford to lose another team fight like that. They had the right idea with the speed buff invade, but they should have had Nika be the one to engage instead of Cherryo. Cherryo needs to be more of the cleanup crew at this point, because Nika is pretty tanky right now.
Meanwhile, in the jungle, Wlfy coming out of his ultimate and claiming the life of DarkDodo. Murrdurr and Arkkyl now being aggressed on. Stun out of the ultimate, and Frenzy has been activated. Arkkyl is toast, but he takes it to the sky. Follow-up damage out of iceicebabyy is there and confirms the kill. 5 kills on Cyclone.
But Nika's making the rotation, forcing the nice purification from Iceice. Taunt gonna follow, finding the return kick. Kalis not in time to save his teammate, but that's gonna be able to allow him to retreat under safety because the whole time NBK was split pushing.
And again, Wlfy jumps on in, uses the purification, but now he gets fearless and power cleaved and a little bit too aggressive, I think, out of the mid lane.
They had the right idea because they found Dodo out of position originally. It was a 4-on-2 in Cyclone's favor. They transitioned it beautifully to dive that tier 2 tower with the Eagle's Rally, with the Frenzy from Deathwalker, but overstaying their welcome a little bit too long. Both Wlfy and Iceice finding their deaths.
So we've seen this Frenzy picked up a couple of times now, Tully. What kind of value does Frenzy bring, and does it vary from team to team is really my question.
I would say with the teamfight presence from Cyclone, they're also trying to find ways to get some objectives. With Eagle's Rally and Frenzy, they should be able to get easy Gold Furies and easy Fire Giants.
VoteNBK and Kalis are going to show up, but Gold Fury already taken by Sanguine in 16 minutes. 2 Gold Furies just taken away off of the map.
And that's still extending their lead off of that teamfight that recognized that the cleanup kills were so important onto Iceice and Wlfy. Even though Dodo got picked off early, once he respawns, he's just going to do so much damage to that Gold Fury and nobody in position from Cyclone to respond in time.
So the late almost straggler kills underneath the tower were very important. Sometimes people think that players are just farming kills, but every single kill winds up mattering on the battlefield most of the time.
There's always an advantage you can get off of respawn timers whenever there is, and like you can look for towers or you're looking for the Gold Furies, and that's exactly what Sanguine recognized. Like, okay, we're losing this team fight, but if we can find these return kills, we could still find something.
And that's why they're sitting up 2,000 gold right now. Cyclone has been able to stay relevant in the game and make a a lot of noise, honestly, but Sanguine wind up one step ahead because they're able to find everything in the nooks and crannies of the team fights.
I'm looking at the relic choices from both of these teams. We have double blinks from the Tier and the Susano on Sanguine. Not too much team fighting relics in terms of sprints or curses or anything like that, whereas Cyclone, they have the Frenzy on Deathwalker, they have the Shell on Ice Ice, and they also have a Shell in Meditation on Callus. I was surprised because he just hit level 12, didn't opt for a sprint.
Yeah, all Sanguine really have available is a meditation and a shell to help them out during these team fights. Cyclone, on the other hand, like you said, a slew of them. Now, does that auto-win Cyclone their team fights because they have more tools?
As long as they can avoid the aggressive initiation from the blinks from Nika and Cherryo, then essentially it just comes down to a numbers game where they have 4 team fighting relics versus the 2 coming from Sanguine.
So Sanguine seem to be all in. All in, Nika blinks in, go for it, and then... well, our stuff is down. What do we do now? Cyclone have a couple of options. If they engage and then get counter-engaged on, if even Cyclone engage, mess things up, and have to engage a second time, you have Deathwalker and Callus there to go ahead and jump on the opposition. Cyclone's composition here is fantastic for sort of making up for your mistakes.
I like this position from Cyclone. With Wlfy down, they have the option to go into right, but in mid lane, you're leaving Wlfy alone, forcing out the ultimate and the purification.
And with the Athena ultimate, that's going to send Sanguine on the aggressive. Wlfy gets put down by the Freya ultimate out of Arkkyl, and that'll be it for the mid lane. Right side, Nika gets jumped on and body blocked just a little bit.
Doing a good job trying to get this tier 2 tower ultimate onto Nika, forcing out the wing blade proc. So trading tier 1 for tier 2, somebody has to respond. It's going to be a teleport coming out of Nika.
Otherwise, VoteNBK was going to get that one
They're
for free.
going for the Phoenix with the team fight frenzy and the Eagles rally. This should work. Shell onto Callus. The Meditate's available as well.
I love the play. Just all in, take the Phoenix out. Nobody even thought about it at first, and Sanguine are able to watch as their Phoenix falls down to Cyclone's crafty
But
plays.
mid-Phoenix to answer in return. These teams are just trading objective after objective. Pre-20-minute mark, pre-Fire Giant Phoenixes. We haven't normally seen this kind of play in a long time.
Not at all. I mean, this is, so the larger term would be base race, right? Just avoiding the individual team fights and going for the objectives. Why are we seeing this? Why don't we see more of this? What is this about?
It's all, well, the thing is, we haven't seen more of this because a lot of teams are thinking more inside the box where they want to go for the calculated plays. We're going for team fights, objectives. You know, they're thinking linearly, like Tower
Fight
1.
me.
Get all the tier 1s before go to the tier 2s.
Right.
Get all the tier 2s before going to the Phoenix. But the strategy from Sanguine, or rather from Cyclone with the Frenzy, with the Eagles rally, you know, having the team fight relics to keep you alive from the Phoenix, it has been executed so perfectly. You could tell they've been practicing this in scrims.
And I love what Deathwalker did, specifically with the Eagles rally giving power, and then of course the Frenzy. Just a lovely combination to enable Cyclone to go ahead and take out that right Phoenix.
But in addition to the preparation that Cyclone has been doing with their strategy, Sanguine, they're not just watching blindly, they're still responding.
Yeah, Sanguine are starting a little bit of a fight here on the right side, but really I think it's Cyclone that's going to wind up on the good side. Cherryo gets hit by 3 out of 4 of the drums of war, and Athena ults on down to say hello. VoteNBK's here as well, but Cherryo able to find a way out. Now it's a fight in the jungle. Jumping forward is Deathwalker trying to get the kill onto Arkkyl. Can't against the Scourge. One slap is going to be immune, and Deathwalker turns around and starts looking at the team.
Wlfy gets rooted, but Dodo caught in a very awkward position, having to backflip away. Nowhere for him to go. His teammates have left him to die, and that's going to allow maybe a Fire Giant opportunity. Frenzy is available for Cyclone.
At the very least, they're going to start it here. 75% already. Cyclone able to chuck this down pretty hard. 50% already. Here comes Sanguine in to start the conversation, but there's the Frenzy, and that's going to send Cyclone aggressively into the enemy ranks.
Wlfy backed in the beginning of that engagement, and Sanguine picked it up, noticing that it was going to be a 4-on-4. They have nothing really to worry about, so the team fight was a great idea to get him off the Fire Giant, and that bought enough time now for Dodo to start coming back into it. He's going to respawn in 10 seconds.
Exactly. Sanguine are able to pick up a little bit of gold in the interim as well, so 3,000 gold, or 2,300 rather, in the lead for Sanguine right now, as Cyclone struggle to find their footing, but they're certainly not slipping and falling. They're just one step behind Sanguine the entire game.
That's the important thing for Cyclone, the fact that they didn't let Sanguine to get out of control with their lead. You know, the speed buffs were problematic in the beginning of the game. 2 gold furies is problematic, but they still kept the lead to a minimal loss. 22 minutes, they're only down 2,000 gold. It's going to limit their losses after this gold fury, but more importantly, they were able to find answers in return because they defended their speed buff, what was it, the third or fourth time? Then they made an aggressive play along the red side, which got them really back into the game.
Exactly. Every time Sanguine was able to make a move, Cyclone were able to respond in kind, and even up until this point, Sanguine make a couple of good plays, and Cyclone were able to respond by sneaking a Gold Fury. Now, 22 minutes in, that Gold Fury sneak, that can't really happen. Why does Sanguine just not show up?
Dodo was respawning at that time, so that gave a small window, I would say, for Cyclone to think of their next strategy and go to play. Sanguine, they weren't able to respond because they were worried about maybe the Fire Giant play. Maybe it was the Eagles Rally Frenzy combination that they've seen on the right side, Phoenix, that's been questioning what they really want to give up from Cyclone.
So Sanguine just didn't want to go to the Gold Fury in fear of other objectives being pressured harder.
It's also a combination of them having to defend the right side. There's fire minions flooding into Sanguine's base. You cannot leave that lane unattended, especially with that Phoenix just now respawning.
That's why we see it pushed up so far. Fire Giant going to be danced around. Nika's here as well, but he'll be safe, not really wanting to go too hard into this team fight.
Fire Giant's low. Frenzy's popped.
It's going to be confirmed here. Fire Giant taken by Cyclone, and they're going to continue the fight. There's Arkkyl up in the ultimate as Cyclone start to turn around and surge forward.
Free Fire Giant, and they're going to continue the team fight, already finding a kill from onto Nika. Nowhere to go for him. Now the rest of Sanguine forced to retreat. Right side Phoenix is going to get pressured. However, somebody has to back from Cyclone because there's 2 fire minion waves in mid.
And Wlfy's already on it. This right Phoenix has fallen, so it's already half HP, half just not as strong as it used to be. As we said, Wlfy is back there, and he will be defending the mid Phoenix on the side of Cyclone. But Cyclone want to get aggressive now. Now they start to look at tier 2s.
They see Deathwalker having to defend middle. He does have teleport available to rotate if there's going to be a team fight. There's a 4-on-4 potential play for Sanguine if they want to force the issue. And that's exactly what they're going to do, forcing out the purification onto NBK on the side. iceice has to retreat, and this is where it's problematic for Cyclone because the fact that Deathwalker had to defend middle.
Exactly. Cyclone need to full out retreat, just group up, buy something real quick, and then push forward, choose a lane, and go at it very slowly and methodically. If you just try to siege this right now, you're going to wind up in a bad spot. So Cyclone going to go ahead and do that.
And that Fire Giant, so far they've gotten the right side Phoenix as a response out of it. They were forced out from the tier 2 tower push, but they still have enough time on this Fire Giant. It's still 2 minutes and 45 seconds for them to be able to find some of these tier 2 towers and maybe an additional Phoenix because this fire minions on the right-hand side is going to start flooding in.
Yeah, and that's something very interesting that we didn't touch on once we saw the Phoenix for Phoenix play, was the impact of the fire minions once the team fight started happening around the Fire Giant and such. How are teams going to react to it? How are they going to have to deal with it? So right now we're seeing that.
And both of these teams right now, we're going to see defense coming out of Sanguine. Cyclone, they have to utilize this Fire Giant's push effectively. They were behind for a large portion of this game, and now it's their opportunity to really dictate the pace.
Exactly. Cyclone inching forward in the lead, just barely. By technicality, they're in the lead. You can see 59,000 gold to Sanguine's 58,000. So Cyclone now, they've tied up the momentum. They've maybe even got some of it themselves with the Fire Giant on tow. And now they're looking for a spot to push. Mid lane, left lane, they'll do both.
They're going to group up around the left-hand side. There's still the teleport available from Deathwalker. Wlfy just pushing out middle because they want to be able to switch between left and middle at the drop of a dime. Their teamfight prowess is pretty confident, even though Callus is 2 levels behind onto Murrdurr. It's still a Bacchus that's very tanky.
And at the end of the day, Bacchus isn't asked to do the heavy lifting here. It's all the Bacchus into the Nemesis Raijin ultimate, right? Plus, you've got the Frenzy to deal with it as well once Deathwalker starts making his decision. So, Cyclone, the Bacchus, sure, you want him to be a higher level, you want him to be a little bit stronger, but he's really just there for a little bit of setup.
Sanguine really giving up these tier 2 towers uncontested, and that's going to allow Cyclone to get this free gold. I wouldn't be surprised if Cyclone, they wait patiently for the right side minions to get a little bit closer to that Phoenix and the Titan room until they make their dedicated push under these Phoenixes.
So again, playing with the fire waves and understanding that the pressure that these fire minions really put onto the enemy player. Cyclone now, left side pushing up as well as the mid. more defensive players on Sanguine in the mid than the left.
It's all a waiting game. Fire Giant's still available for 1 minute and 10 seconds on them. The Wlfy is respawning in 50 seconds. If they can find an additional Phoenix, this is what they're really looking for. Forcing out Arkkyl with just a Nemesis ulti and NBK. He doesn't have purification.
But Murrdurr shows up immediately, and NBK in some trouble. Has to sank out a lot of the damage, but Neith is going to seal the deal.
He got the interception. Great play. NBK didn't go down. Cherryo now in response, falling in with that frenzy drop. Nika landing in the backline, but great zoning from Deathwalker on the opposite end.
Getting 3 with the stun and able to separate them from his team. And now Cyclone trying to fight back into it, but Arkkyl punishes them for it. The rest of Cyclone going to be on the retreat, 1 for 1. But oh boy, Sanguine played that very well.
Great hold. They hold on to their mid Phoenix. Their Titan takes a little bit of poke, but it's not too much at the end of the day. Only about 500 to, I'm sorry, that's actually about 25% of its health right now. It's 7,500. So they do have to watch out for maybe a all-in commitment.
Maybe, but keep in mind there's still 2 Phoenixes up as well, so the Titan, maybe not 100% healthy, but feeling good rather than feeling bad. Gold Fury will be started up one more time by Cyclone.
I love the patience from NBK, not landing from his ultimate, allowing iceice to intercept that Neith ultimate at the very last second. Had that landed, NBK would have died, and then that would have been an all-in commitment from Sanguine chasing them down.
It's very hard to fight that fight or flight response, right? When you're just in the heat of the moment and you're trying to fight that. I can't hit my button now because I'm going to allow my teammate to set me up, but you want to, you need to. So that's a very tough spot to be in.
I'm really surprised, though, that Cyclone committed on the left and middle because there was no purification onto NBK at that time, and that's what allowed so much damage off of the Murrdurr taunt. You know, we saw the root from Dodo. We saw so much poke. Cherryo made the rotation. You have to respect the mobility from the Susano.
And Cherryo certainly making use of it here. He's got 2 kills, but more importantly, perhaps 5 assists. That's really what I'm looking at for Sanguine, is how much Cherryo has been able to really allow his teammates to get things going. Like you said, Murrdurr setting up for TheDarkDodo as well.
This time around, Cyclone yet again going to start up the Fire Giant, but Sanguine is a little bit closer this time around, and they're going to try to contest a Nika, missing the Blink Fearless Wlfy into his ultimate.
Arkkyl gets knocked up as well into his ultimate, and there's the frenzy out of Deathwalker. Over the top comes Nika looking for a Fearless, and Susano will knock up Wlfy. It's a double Fearless on the backside of Nika, but Deathwalker starts it off first by taking out Arkkyl.
And Cherryo is forced back by Wlfy. iceice finding Dodo. NBK is going to chase down Nika.
One
That's
more.
3 deaths on the side of Sanguine.
And VoteNBK, 2 kills, 0 deaths, and 6 full assists.
You're not going to get away from this Nemesis. She has Wingblade. She has speed buff. She's going to be able to chase you down till the end of the world. Right side Phoenix is going to get pressured by NBK. This is probably game, honestly.
I mean, you have Cherryo's up. Everybody else is going to be down for 40 seconds, 30 seconds. Cyclone can win this. And in fact, they certainly will.
As long as Nemesis regroups, they could go for mid Phoenix or they could go for the end. Deathwalker is here. They definitely can easily go for the win.
This is the right call. As long as they full commit, that's the problem. I'm not seeing a full commit here, totally.
But Cherryo.
VoteNBK playing with Cherryo. They need to commit onto the Titan. Otherwise, they're okay. It scared me a little bit.
I was worried a little bit too.
Scared me a little bit.
Cherryo was doing a good job zoning away NBK at the beginning of that Titan siege, but the rest of the 3 players was enough to deal damage. Like we mentioned before, that 25% health is probably what allowed them to maybe get the win.
You know what? When you pointed out the 25%, I said, oh, totally. Oh, come on.
Maybe.
But hey, look, I mean, it came down to the wire, and the Titan did fall.
Yeah.
Like right down to the 25%. So well done by the guys. And you know, that one came out very, very quick. Like we saw the Phoenixes just fall, and then we saw the team fights happen, and then all of a sudden everybody's dead for 40 seconds, and they just rushed the Titan.
I think honestly that last team fight was the combination of the relic decisions between Sanguine and Cyclone, right? We saw the Blink Fearless off the mark, and without that secondary relic, his team fight is just that less impactful now. He did get a nice double Fearless to his credit, but at the same time, the Frenzy Eagles rally combination from Deathwalker with 4 other team fighting relics for Cyclone is what allowed them to really dominate that last team fight.
I mean, not even just the last team fight. The Frenzy Eagles rally combination is what allowed them to take out the first Phoenix by just a 1-by-1 play. So, just well done.
Great picks.